What's one plotting technique that changed your life?
Oh, okay. So the one plotting technique that changed my life in terms of the plot itself, we've spoken a lot about character and stuff already, so I don't want to rehash that. But the one thing that has changed my plotting life in terms of the plot itself is the hook, or what I call the invisible question. And it took me longer than it probably should have to get my head around what a good hook actually is. So I define the hook, which is the first line you open your book with to get the reader to read on, as a question that you pose in the reader's mind using a statement. So you won't necessarily ask a question as the first line of your book, but you will pose a question in a way that doesn't make it sound like a question. So an example of this is from James Frey's young adult novel, The Calling, where he opens with Endgame has begun. Now, that's not a lot of detail, not a lot of words, but you instantly want to know, or the reader would want to know, what Endgame is. If the central conflict is happening, it's obviously happening inside the conflicts of Endgame, so we get a little information about the plot as well. So they're the types of really short, snappy statements that you can start a novel with that will allow you to hook your reader in. And if you can reveal something about character, plot, and setting at the same time, so much the better. So another great example is the opening to The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. And again, people will debate that book ad nauseum as to whether it's a good book. I personally think it's pretty good. So Dan Brown opens that novel with a museum curator staggering through an archway, and you immediately want to know, why is he staggering? Is he drunk? Is he wounded? Is there some other reason? And it's those little things that you can open a novel with that keep the reader reading. Because if they don't get past that first sentence, they're never going to read your book anyway. It doesn't really matter. So I think when I'm plotting in terms of plot, that is the most important thing that I focus on, to actually get the reader hooked in. And that's probably the most valuable lesson I've learned, not just to open your novel with, a barrage of description that has nothing to do with the plot of your novel.
Or too much backstory?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't open any backstory, ideally. Like, just don't open with backstory. Leave it. And if you are doing backstory, drip feed it in. Don't do massive, as you know, Bob, this thing's happening. Da, da, da. Nobody wants to hear that.